So, hello everyone, my name is Ricky and welcome to my video presentation for today. My topic would be observing the natural world, in which I'll be focusing on this topic about explaining the two of the great philosopher in the history of ancient Greek, which is Plato and Aristotle. And throughout the whole video presentation, I will start off with explaining the word philosophy and the biography and life of those two famous philosophers and their own philosophy, in which what they think is an ideal of a form. So let's get started. Okay, so what is philosophy? Have you ever heard about philosophy or know what it actually means? Well, philosophy is basically the study or understanding of the fundamental truth about themselves or the place they live in, and the relationship between us and the world. And for those who study about philosophy, such as philosophers, tend to understand about themselves, wanting to ask, answer, and argue about something in life, in which we seek to understand the history in ways that people answer in the past. The word philosophy was originated in ancient Greek, which also means the love of wisdom, and the studies of philosophy are related to wide areas of thought, including the arts, science, and religion. Although originally the study of philosophy might not mean the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, but many philosophers believe that it is important for us to find the answer to every aspect of a question, as it is the source of knowledge. The questions that were asked are usually found foundational or abstract nature, in which philosophy are done by the reflection and does not rely on experiment. Therefore, this is the introduction to word philosophy and its meaning. And let's move on to the next part. Well, there are many philosophers since the ancient time, even until now. But today I will choose two of the most famous philosophers in history of mankind. One of them was Plato. He is a philosopher from Greece and the founder of the Academy. Plato was born in 428 BCE and died in 347 BCE in Athens. He built the Great Academy in 380 BCE, which is the ancestor of modern university, and he is the best known for his philosophical work of unparalleled influence. Plato was just a wandering philosopher, following the name of Socrates, his teacher. As he is a student, Socrates encouraged his students, including Plato, to challenge conventional wisdom to the point where he was executed in 399 BCE for manipulating the youth. This was the starting point of change for Plato as he moved from Athens to avoid being executed for the same reason as his teacher. Later, Plato was able to move on with his life, as he is able to create his own ways as a philosopher himself that he became famous for. And next, let's learn about the life of his student, Aristotle. Aristotle was also a famous philosopher and a scientist. He is also from Greece as his teacher Plato, and a student of Plato himself. Aristotle was born in 384 BCE and died in 322 BCE in Greece. He was considered by many philosophers as one of the greatest thinkers in politics and ethics. When he became 17, he joined the academy that Plato built, and during that time, he started teaching Alexander the Great. As he keeps on learning himself, he was able to create his own school, which is called the Lyceum in Athens, where he would spend the rest of his time studying, teaching, and writing. Aristotle was famous for his work in many of his notes and scripts in rhetoric, politics, ethics, science, and physiology, which consists of all record and scientific observation work. And that is the life of Aristotle. So now let's go to their philosophy of whether the theory of form for both Plato and Aristotle, and how they came up with the theory. Plato's theories of form. He believed that an untouchable ideas like beauty, moral, goodness, and justice do not exist in the physical world that we live in, and instead exist in the world of ideas. However, as they are not existing in the physical world, they are not the less constant and real things. The things that Plato wants us to understand by his theory is that we cannot see the forms directly by ourselves. Instead, it can only be a concept or traces of them in the physical world. Plato came up with his theory when he used an experiment which is called allegory of the cave to help explain the theory of his form. He believed that by using the experiment he could learn that existence of form are things in themselves that exist outside of the human experience and universe. And that is Plato's theory of form. But what's else? What would Aristotle think of Plato's theory of form? Would he accept it or reject it? Or continue the way of how his teacher think of the ideal of form? Or would it make its own? Let's move on. For Aristotle, he rejected the theory of form in which his teacher Plato believed in, which state that properties such as beauty are untouchable ideas that does not exist in the physical world. Instead, they exist independent of the object themselves. Aristotle argued that forms are natural to the objects and cannot exist apart from them, and this is what led to the study of an ideal universal form. What Aristotle wants us to understand about his theory is that the form is not something that's covering outside, but instead it is a part of sense and ideas. Real substance or idea is not an abstract form, but rather an individual thing. Let's move on. As this will be the end of my presentation, I would like to sum up everything that I have said from the beginning to now. At the start, I have explained about what is philosophy and the meaning behind it. I explained about the life of the two great philosophers of ancient Greek and their background story. And then I will explain the theory of form by both of them, including Plato and Aristotle, and the difference between them. And so, why did I choose this topic to write about? I chose to write this topic because I want to learn more about their life and the way that both famous philosophers of Greek think about whether or not the reality is not a reflection of an ideal form. It also interests me about each of their individual life and how they are able to create a philosophy that lasted from an ancient time of Greek and still impact our lives nowadays. And that is it for my video presentation. Thank you for watching.